isotonic contraction, the word iso means same and tonic means tone. So the contraction where the tension in the muscle, the tone of the muscle remains same, but the length of the muscle fiber changes, is known as isotonic contraction. Of isotonic contraction, whereas isotonic and metric means length. So in case of length, the fiber remains, the muscle fiber remains same. Example of isometric contraction are pushing against a wall. Okay. After this, let's see about. This is the entire thing that we will be talking about today. This neuromuscular junction you have already studied. Okay, axon potential is propagated along the muscle cell membrane into the T tubules. Okay, this is the T tubule, and here you can see there is a small receptor. This receptor is known as DHP, dihydropyridine receptor, and this has got a connection with a receptor in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so sarcoplasmic reticulum stores calcium in the muscle cell. Okay, and on the surface of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, wait a while. Okay. Thank you. In neuromuscular junction, the neurotransmitters are released, then action potential is generated, and action potential is generated on the muscle end plate, and the action potential also propagates along the T tubules. Okay, and as it propagates along the T tubules, in T tubules there is a receptor, dihydropyridine receptor, DHP, and this receptor is in close connection with a ryanodine receptor, okay, which is present on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulum is the storehouse of calcium. So first point is action potential is propagated along the muscle cell membrane and into the T tubules. Number 2 is calcium is released from the terminal cistern. Calcium is released because of the interaction of the dihydropyridine receptor and the ryanodine receptor on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Because of this interaction, ultimately calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum comes out. Then what happens? Calcium binds to the troponin and removes the blocking action of tropomyosin. This calcium binds with the troponin C. Okay, and when it binds with the troponin C, it removes the blocking action of the tropomyosin. So what happens then? Then the binds and rotates and it generates the force. Okay, and the fifth point is the calcium is transported back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum by the help of the active pump, calcium pump, that is, it uses ATP to pump the calcium back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. The calcium removal from troponin restores tropomyosin blocking action. Okay, this is the main thing that we'll study today. This is release and uptake of calcium by the sarcoplasmic reticulum during contraction and relaxation of skeletal muscle fiber. So today's topic is mainly excitation, contraction, coupling. See? Excitation, contraction, coupling in the skeletal muscle. Let's see with this picture. This is the terminal. New muscular junction. This from axon terminal, acetylcholine is released by somatic motor neurons, and the acetylcholine that is released it binds with the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. See, these are the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. These are present on the sarcolemma. And when the acetylcholine binds to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors in the sarcolemma, it causes depolarization. And this depolarization, what happens? This depolarization will depolarization stimulates the voltage-gated channels producing action potentials. Okay. So the third point is the conduction of the action potential along the transverse tubules occurs. This action potential is transferred along the T tubules. You can see the T tubules here. Okay. And it stimulates the opening of the voltage-gated channels, voltage-gated calcium channels. This is what we talked about, the dihydropyridine receptor and the ryanodine receptor. These channels in the transverse tubules are mechanically coupled to calcium release channels in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and then they cause them to open. So the calcium diffuses out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum so that the calcium can bind to troponin and cause and stimulate muscle contraction. Okay. Excitation coupling is. Point is acetylcholine is released by somatic motor neurons and it binds to nicotinic acetylcholine receptors in the sarcolemma, causing a depolarization that stimulates the voltage-gated channels producing action potentials. The conduction of action potentials along the transverse tubules stimulates the opening of voltage-gated calcium channels. These channels in the transverse tubules are mechanically coupled to calcium release channels in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, causing them to open. Calcium then diffuses out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum so that it can bind to troponin and stimulate the muscle contraction. Okay, so the main point that we need to know about excitation-contraction coupling is this one. Somatic motor neuron. From somatic motor neuron, acetylcholine is released in sarcolemma. It binds to sarcolemma, means the plasma membrane of the muscle fiber. Acetylcholine binds to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. It opens the ligand-gated channels. Sodium diffuses in producing depolarizing stimulus. Action potential is produced on the muscle fiber. Then what happens? In transverse tubules also action potentials are conducted. Then action potentials open the voltage-gated calcium channels. Action potentials, they open the voltage-gated calcium channels, okay, by the communication of dihydropyridine receptor and ryanodine receptor. Then calcium release channels in sarcoplasmic reticulum open. Calcium diffuses out into the sarcoplasm. In myofibrils, calcium binds to the troponin C and it stimulates the muscle contraction. Okay, this is the main thing. Now let's see how this is happening. Activation of the first thing, we should also know about the sliding filament theory of the contraction, how the muscle contraction occurs in skeletal muscle. Okay, so a myofiber, together with all its myofibrils, shortens by movement of the insertion toward the origin of the muscle. The shortening of the myofibrils is caused by shortening of the sarcomeres. Okay. The shortening of the myofibrils is caused by shortening of the sarcomeres. That is, the distance between Z lines or Z discs is reduced. Okay. The sliding of the filaments, Sliding of the filaments is produced by the shortening of the sarcomeres is accompanied by sliding of the myofilaments. The length of each filament remains the same during contraction. Okay. The sliding of the filaments is produced by asynchronous by asynchronous power strokes of myosin cross bridges, which pull the thin filaments actin over the thick filaments myosin. Please listen this. This is important. Sliding of the filaments is produced by asynchronous power strokes. Asynchronous power strokes of myosin cross bridges, which pull the thin filaments, that is, which pull the actin over the thick filaments, that is myosin. Actin is pulled over the myosin. The A bands remain the same length during contraction, but are pulled toward the origin of the muscle. Adjacent A bands are pulled closer together as the I bands between them shorten. The H bands shorten during contraction as thin filaments on the sides of the sarcomeres are pulled towards the middle. Okay, so let's see the picture. Activation of the myosin head is mainly shown here. This is the thin filament, that is the actin. Thin filament, and this is the thick filament. Okay, the myosin head. This is the myosin head. Okay, this myosin head has an actin binding site, that is, it has got an actin binding site. This one, the upper one, you can see here the actin binding site, which serves as an ATPase to hydrolyze the ATP. It serves as an ATPase. It serves as an enzyme to hydrolyze the ATP. When ATP is hydrolyzed, it is hydrolyzed into ADP and phosphate. The myosin head then becomes activated and it changes its orientation. It changes its conformation, its orientation. It is now ready to bind to the actin subunits. See, this gets activated when this hydrolyzes the ATP, then the myosin head becomes activated and changes its conformation or orientation, and now it is ready to bind to the actin subunits. You can see it is binding to the actin subunits. These are the actin subunits, the purple ones. Okay, at this point ADP and phosphate are still attached to the myosin head. So this is how the myosin attaches to. Again, the cross bridge power stroke, how it happens. You see in the first picture, the myosin head has been activated by the splitting of ATP into ADP and phosphate, which remains bound. At this point, the myosin head has bonded to the actin. You can see in the picture, the myosin head has bonded to the actin, forming a cross bridge between the thick filament and the thin filament. After the phosphate group leaves the cross bridge, okay, this phosphate group, after it leaves the cross bridge, the myosin head changes its orientation, changes its formation, and it produces the power stroke, and that moves actin filament. Okay, so this is how the power stroke occurs. Cross bridge cycle that causes sliding of the filaments and muscle contraction is described here. Let's see one at a time. First and foremost, see resting muscle fiber. This is a resting muscle fiber. Cross bridge is not attached to actin. The thin filament is here and the thick filament is here. The cross bridge is not yet attached to the actin. This is the first stage. Now coming to second stage, what happens? This cross bridge binds to actin. This hydrolysis of ATP is required for activation of the cross bridge, and the binding of a new ATP is required for the cross bridge to release from the actin at the end of a cycle. You have understood the first one? The cross bridge is not attached to actin. Here thick and thin filaments are set. In second, see, cross bridge binds to actin. Okay, ATP gets hydrolyzed and to ADP and phosphate, and myosin head binds to actin. Then what happens? The phosphate, the inorganic phosphate is released. It causes conformational change of the myosin. When there is conformational change of the myosin, power stroke occurs, and this power stroke causes filaments to slide. ADP is released. Okay, ADP and inorganic phosphate both are released. Now what happens? a new ATP binds to myosin head. A new ATP to myosin, allowing it release from actin. Okay. And in sixth position, you see the ATP is hydrolyzed, causing the cross bridge to return to its original orientation. When ATP is hydrolyzed, it comes to its original orientation. So this is how the cross bridge cycle occurs. The structural relationship between tropomyosin and actin is shown in this picture. Once the purple globular structures, these are all actin, and tropomyosin is a rope-like structure. You see this one, this color, rope-like structure. And troponin complex, it consists of three of them: troponin C, troponin I, and troponin T. Troponin C binds with calcium. Okay. The role of calcium in muscle contraction. See, this is a relaxed muscle. Tropomyosin blocks the binding site. The tropomyosin, this is the tropomyosin, it is blocking the binding site. Then, in second, you see contracting muscle. Myosin head binds to actin. Myosin head binds to actin. Now, calcium has come and it has bound to troponin, and the tropomyosin is not blocking, but myosin head binds with the actin. Okay, the attachment of calcium to troponin causes movement of the troponin-tropomyosin complex. See, when calcium is attached to the troponin C, it causes movement of the troponin-tropomyosin complex. This exposes the binding site on the actin. The myosin cross bridge can then attach to actin and they undergo a power stroke. Okay, so excitation, contraction, coupling involves these main four processes. What are they? Acetylcholine released by somatocholine receptors in the sarcolemma, causing a depolarization that stimulates the voltage-gated channels, producing action potentials. Then the conduction of action potentials along transverse tubules stimulates the opening of the voltage-gated calcium channels. These channels in the transverse plasmic reticulum. So calcium bind to troponin and stimulate the muscle contraction. Okay, so this is what we need to know about excitation, contraction, coupling in skeletal muscle. And ECC is very important for your exam. Okay, could you follow? Everybody asleep? Could you follow? Thank God, somebody replied. This is very important. Excitation, contraction, coupling in skeletal muscle. Now let's talk about the excitation, contraction, coupling in cardiac muscle. What happens in cardiac muscle? Okay. There is depolarization of the plasma membrane during action potential. Voltage channels opened, causing voltage-gated calcium channels to open the nervous tubules. Voltage channels and then at the voltage-gated sodium channels are open. It causes voltage-gated open the transverse channels. See, first and foremost, there is depolarization of the plasma membrane during action potential. What is it? So, transverse. Okay, in the transverse tubules. This allows some calcium to diffuse from the extracellular fluid into the cytoplasm. Okay, so the calcium enters inside the cytoplasm. This stimulates the opening of the calcium release channels in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. What does these calcium do? They stimulate the opening of calcium release channels. They stimulate the release of calcium. They stimulate the opening of calcium release channels. Okay, they stimulate the opening of calcium release channels which are present in sarcoplasmic reticulum. This process is called calcium stimulated calcium release. Okay, after that, the calcium released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum binds to the troponin C, and then it stimulates contraction. It binds with troponin C and it stimulates contraction. Number 4, a calcium pump, that is calcium ATPase pump, actively transports calcium into the sarcoplasm, into the cisternae of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which allows relaxation of the myocardium and produces a concentration gradient favoring the outward diffusion of calcium for the next contraction. So this is the case of excitation-contraction coupling in case of a cardiac muscle. Okay. After that, again the same thing in a different way. Excitation-contraction coupling in cardiac muscle. How does it occur? So the first and foremost thing that we must know is the membrane is depolarized. Okay. How is the membrane is depolarized? By sodium entry as an action potential begins. See, number 1 here, the membrane is depolarized by sodium entry as action potential begins. The sodium enters inside. Number 2, the depolarization opens L-type calcium channels in the T-tubules. It opens the L-type calcium channels into the T-tubules. Then, a small amount of trigger calcium enters the cytosol. This small amount of calcium enters the cytosol. It contributes to cell depolarization, and this trigger calcium, it binds to and opens the ryanodine receptor. Ryanodine receptor calcium channels which are present on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. These are, the third point is, the calcium binds to the ryanodine receptor on the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Third one is, a small amount of calcium enters the cytosol, contributing to cell depolarization. That triggers calcium to bind, calcium binds, that trigger calcium binds to and opens the ryanodine receptor calcium channels in the sarcoplasmic reticulum membrane. Calcium flows into the cytosol, increasing the calcium concentration. Binding of calcium to troponin exposes cross-bridge binding sites on the filaments. Okay. So number 4 is calcium flows into the cytosol, increasing the calcium concentration. Number 5 is binding of the calcium to troponin exposes the cross-bridge binding sites on the thin filaments. Okay, this number 5 that we are talking about. Then number 6, cross-bridge cycling causes force generation and sliding of thick and thin filament. Okay, cross-bridge cycling causes force generation and sliding of thick and thin filaments. Then calcium ATPase pump returns calcium to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Calcium ATPase pump and sodium calcium exchangers remove the calcium from the cell. The membrane is repolarized when potassium exits to end the action potential. Okay, this is how the excitation contraction coupling occurs in case of normal heart. Okay, let's take one at a time. For contraction, skeletal muscle must be stimulated by a nerve ending, and it propagates as an action potential along the sarcolemma. It has a rise in intracellular calcium, which is the final stimulus for contraction. Calcium levels may rise from its resting level of less than 10 to the power 7 mole to greater than 10 to the power minus 10 to the power minus 5 moles. There are various theories of muscle contraction theory. Continuous filament theory. According to this theory, during contraction, actin and myosin combine to form one continuous filament which undergoes folding and shortening. Electron microscope observations do not support this theory, as the contraction length and thick and thin filament is not altered when their relative position changes. Then another one is theories of muscle contraction. Huxley and Niederberg gave sliding filament theory in 1954. Cross-bridge cycle theory was given by Huxley in 1957. Thin filament slides past thick filament. The molecular basis of sliding motion is by globular head of myosin. It is by the thin filament slides past the thick filament. The molecular basis of sliding motion is by globular head of myosin, forming cross bridges with actin monomers. This is also called Huxley's cross-bridge theory or ratchet theory of muscle contraction, work along theory. Sliding filament theory. Thin filaments slide over the thick. Width of A band remains constant. Z lines move closer. Width of A band remains constant. Z lines move closer. Then there is contraction. If Z lines move apart, then there is relaxation. So the upper one is a relaxed state. The lower one is the contracted state. Sliding filament theory, same thing but in a picture way. After that, let's talk about the excitation contraction coupling proper. The sequence of events that link the transmission of an action potential along the sarcolemma to the muscle contraction is called the sliding of the myofilaments. Okay. The entire process, extending from the depolarization of the T-tubule membrane to the initiation of cross-bridge cycling, is termed excitation contraction coupling or EC coupling. Please remember, the entire process which extends from depolarization of the T-tubule membrane to the initial Let's take it again. The entire process extending from depolarization of T-tubule membrane to the initiation of cross-bridge cycling is termed excitation, contraction, coupling or EC coupling. Action potential travels along T-tubules, leading to calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which leads to muscle contraction. Excitation, contraction, coupling. The electrical event is action potential is generated in muscle filter membrane. Electrical event is action potential is generated in muscle fiber membrane due to depolarization of motor and plate. So we have seen so far, we have seen action potential is transmitted along the muscle fiber and it initiates the contractile response. The mechanical event is contraction via contractile protein myosin and cytoskeletal protein actin. Single action potential causes a brief contraction followed by relaxation, which is called single as a brief contraction followed by relaxation, and this is called simple muscle twitch. Okay, so let's see in this picture. This is plotted against the time scale. Twitch starts about 2 milliseconds after the start of depolarization of the membrane and repolarization. Before it starts about 2 milliseconds after the start of depolarization. After the start of depolarization of the membrane and before repolarization is complete. Duration of twitch varies with type of muscles. Like fast muscle fibers have fine, precise movements. Okay, then what we do is duration of the twitch varies with type of the muscle. There are two types of muscles, fast fibers and slow fibers. Fast muscle fibers, they are fine, rapid and precise movement. They control fine movement, rapid movement and precise movements. Twitch duration is as short as 7.5 millimeters. Slow muscle fibers, strong gross, sustained movements. Slow muscle fibers are strong, gross, sustained movements. After that, we should know that the action potential of minus 90 millivolt, resting membrane potential of the muscle cell is minus 90 millivolt. Action potential lasts for 2 to 4 milliseconds, conducted along the muscle fiber. And it is considered what happens is action potential lasts for 2 to 4 milliseconds, conducted along the muscle fiber for fiber at 5 symptom. What happens is the action potential of the skeletal muscle is minus 90 millivolt. So when action potential lasts for 2 to 4 milliseconds, then it is conducted, the action potential is conducted along the muscle fiber at the speed of 5 meters per second with absolute refractory period ARP, that is absolute refractory period of 1 to 3 milliseconds. It ends before contraction occurs. Period between action potential and initiation and beginning of contraction is called the latent period. We often forget this. The period between action potential initiation and the beginning of contraction is called the latent period. Excitation contraction coupling occurs within the latent period. See, this is the muscle fiber membrane potential in milliseconds. Definition during one switch. This picture is from Titan pump. Okay. Steps in contraction. Neurotransmitter acetylcholine, it binds to its receptor on the motor end plate. The ligand-gated ion channels in the receptors open and allow sodium and potassium ions to move across the membrane. Then depolarization occurs. Okay. Then it is propagated along sarcolemma. Then it reaches the T tubules, and then it reaches the triad. T system or transverse system, it contains groups of 4 called tetrads. See, it contains the L-type calcium channels clustered in the groups of 4 called tetrads. Each is in fact a heteropentameric structure. Each of the 4 calcium channels is also called a DHP receptor, that is dihydropyridine receptor, because it is inhibited by a class of antihypertensives. It is known as dihydropyridine. Functions as voltage sensor in it functions as voltage sensor in excitation control. It functions as voltage sensor in excitation contraction coupling. Depolarization of T tubules activates longitudinal sarcoplasmic reticulum via DHP receptors. The depolarization of the T tubules activates the longitudinal sarcoplasmic reticulum via the DHP receptors. Are you able to hear me? Are you able to? The depolarization of the T tubule activates longitudinal sarcoplasmic reticulum via the dihydropyridine receptors, also known as rhinodine receptors, because they are inhibited by a class of drugs that include the plant alkaloids, rhinodine and caffeine. Homotetrameric. It has got homotetrameric structure. Each of the 4 subunits of these channels as also called foot ligand-gated calcium channels with calcium as its natural ligand. Calcium induced calcium release. Depolarization. Each L-type calcium channel interacts with foot of one of the 4 subunits of the calcium release channel. Depolarization of T tubule evokes conformational changes in each of the 4 types of calcium channels and has 2 effects. One is conformational change allows the calcium to enter through the 4 channel pores. Okay, the conformational changes, they allow the calcium to enter the to enter through the 4 action channel. T-tubule evokes conformational change in each of the 4 L-calcium channels. Conformational changes allow calcium to enter through the 4 channel pores. Second and much more important, the conformational changes in the 4 types, L types. To enter through the 4 as much. Second and much more important, the conformational change in the 4 type calcium channels induce a conformational change in each of the 4 subunits of So second and much more importantly, conformational change occurs in the 4 L type of calcium channels. It induces the conformational change in each of the 4 subunits of another channel, the calcium release channel that is located in the sarcoplasmic reticulum membrane. This is the dihydropyridine receptor which is present on the T-tubule, and this is the ryanodine receptor. Let's see this picture. Here, in number 1, membrane depolarization opens the L-type calcium channel that we can appreciate. In number 2, there is mechanical coupling between the L type of calcium channeled and the calcium release channeled. Mechanical coupling between the L type calcium channels and the calcium release channel causes the calcium release exits the sarcoplasmic reticulum via the calcium release. Calcium activates troponin C leading to muscle contraction. Calcium entering the cell via the L-type calcium channels also can activate the calcium ions. Let's take it again. Number 4, calcium entering the cell via L-type of calcium. Type of calcium channels also activate. Also can activate the calcium calcium entering the cell via the L type of calcium channels. In this membrane, the green one is the membrane of sarcoplasmic reticulum. Plate also known as calcium release channels, and these are the full plates from the dihydropyridine. So what happens is, this is the dihydropyridine receptor. This fits into the ryanodine receptor. See, they communicate, then calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Excitation, contraction, coupling. Calcium binds with troponin C, then troponin binds with tropomyosin complex and inhibits the interaction between actin and myosin. When calcium binds to troponin C, active sites of actin are uncovered and ATP is split to ADP, releasing P and the energy and contraction occurs. When calcium binds to troponin C, active sites of actin are uncovered and ATP is split and ADP and releasing P energy. Active sites of actin are uncovered and ATP is split to ADP, releasing P energy and contraction occurs. Okay. ADP release, dissociation of ADP from myosin. Myosin head remains in the same position, 45 degrees angle with respect to the neck in 45. Myosin head remains in the same position, 45 degree angle with respect to the thick and thin filaments. ATP binding. ATP binding to the head of the myosin heavy chain MHC reduces the affinity of myosin for activity. Myosin head releases actin filament. So ATP binding to the head of the myosin heavy chain MHC, that is head of the myosin heavy chain, reduces the affinity of the myosin for actin. Myosin head releases actin filament. ATP hydrolysis, breakdown of ATP and ADP, and inorganic phosphate occurs on the myosin head. As a result of hydrolysis, the myosin head pivots around a used car in a As a result of hydrolysis, the myosin head pivots around the hinge into a cocked position. Cocked position. Cocked position means perpendicular or at a 90 degree angle to the thick and thin filaments. Rotation causes the tip of we studied that as a result of the hydrolysis, the myosin head pivots around the hinge into a cocked position, perpendicular or 90 degree angle to the thick and thin filaments. Now rotation causes the tip of the myosin to move about 11 nanometer along the actin filament, so that it now lines up with a new actin monomer. 2 monomers further change the rotation causes the tip of the myosin to 11 nanometer along the actin filament, so that it now lines up with a new actin monomer. With a new actin monomer, 2 monomers further along the is elevated and sufficient ATP is there, muscle cells do not regulate cross-bridge cycling by modifying the concentration of ATP. Instead, skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle control this cycle by preventing cross-bridge formation and until the tropomyosin moves out of the way in response to an increase in calcium ion. This is the same thing that we discussed earlier. Okay, so this much for today. Good one.